So we have our second speaker for Witching Hour. I'm delighted to introduce Yevheniia Kanchura, an associate professor in Zhytomyr Polytechnic State University in Ukraine, and a co-director of the Center for Fantasy Literature Studies there. She is joining us in Trinity this term as a visiting researcher in the Long Room Hub, and today she's talking about some of the research she's doing right now on narrative causality in Terry Pratchett's Witches books.
Thanks a lot, and good evening, everyone. I would like to start with this picture because it's a picture of our university, Zhytomyr Polytechnic, and it was the day where our first years were joining in our community, and so they installed a photo zone, and I couldn't just skip it because it was also fantasy. You can see different illusions, and you know which narrative reality is here. It's a set of library books, Marx and Engels. Yeah. So well, it's a sort of crisis narrative, in my opinion. And really, it's a topic of witches because witches are very conscious of stories and they can feel stories. But the thing is that the very famous phrase from Witches Abroad, everybody who read Pratchett knows this. You read it in English, and in English, power is power and it has two meanings, yes. But when we translate it into Russian and Ukrainian, we use different words because this knowledge is power is translated like it's sila, which is a physical strength, but power is also a social power. And when it goes about this kind of power of narrative causality, it's an evil power because people who use it, they want one story to rule them all, right? Yeah. And that is because Pratchett mentions that there are special people who are also aware of the power of stories, but they have to be a special kind of person to fight back. So not to use power of stories to rule them all, but to fight back this power of stories. And here come witches. Really, it's very important to understand that maybe the most important witches in this aspect is Granny Weatherwax. And in two novels which concentrate the idea of power of stories in Weird Sisters and Witches Abroad, we have very similar quotes. Granny never had never had much time for words. They're so insubstantial. Or she says, I don't like stories, they're not real, and I don't like things that aren't real. But the thing is that insubstantial might be really very powerful because insubstantial things are soft like water, but they also power. And we can combine this soft power which flows into our minds. And in Witches Abroad, you can see that stories, when you get into stories, where you are catched by the stories, you get confused and you don't really know what is really real. And in this case, exactly Granny Weatherwax stands and fights back. So there are mainly two groups of people who are aware of power of stories, those who consider stories like the source of power, and people like witches who fight back. And what I want to do in our research, we collaborate with Jane, is to show it step by how to find out how Pratchett shows it step by step, because for me, what is the most important, that Pratchett not just created an interesting fantasy world with interesting adventures or something else. He showed us how the cohesive narrative works and how we can fight back. So he gave us a tool. And again, what is also very important, Brainy is aware of stories, but she understood that stories work by their repetition, constant, multiple repetition, like three-dimensional cliches. And the repetition is a very important thing. I just want to tell you that here I will use two very bad words. Started with letter P. The first is politics. Yeah, because I am currently reading an interesting essay by Andrew Raymond, Fantasy, Politics, and Postmodernity. Yeah, and he's a philosopher, and he spots a very important thing. But I think lots of Pratchett scholars spotted that Pratchett's default position is that language is sovereign. It's something which can function itself independently of those who use these things. And another point is that Pratchett has an ability to unsettle the audience, so to break the balance and draw the people from their comfort zone. And another very bad word is propaganda. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to shift into politics, but really, the thing how Pratchett demonstrates the power of words and stories really remind us the mechanism of propaganda. And the most important thing here is to influence, to use, disseminate the information, facts, arguments, rumors, and half-truths or lies to influence public opinion. And stories and words in Pratchett books, they really influence not just public opinion, they influence every person's mind and corrupt it. That is why, for example, deforestation can be presented like this. I think you all can read it, yeah? Shall I? A far-reaching and ambitious plan to expand the agricultural industry, provide long-term employment in the sawmill mills, open new land and for development, and to use the scope for banditry. So that's deforestation, okay? Just another formula. And these formulas are suggested by a very poor, honestly, person, by the fool, who is not weak, but he's in a weak position, who sees what is going on and who understands that the couple of farmers will be just killing people and destroying the land. And he's trying to reduce the violence by using words. He knew how to do it in the Fool's Guild, and that is maybe the most evil place in Ankh-Morpork, one of the scariest places. And in my opinion, when Pratchett describes it, he's also scary of it, because it's the place where people lose their personality. And here, the fool understood that words were things on their own right, that they really can rule the world and the people's mind. But they do not only create the propaganda situation, they also change history, because history is what people remember, and memories consist of words. And so the Lady Feldman said, so history is what people are told. Okay. And you can see that in this case, cohesive narrative is implemented in a parody of Hamlet, and when the witches who are watching the performance, they understand what is going on, they feel it like magic, because magic is also a power which influences the world. And when Granny understands that this is magic, she understands that it's a magic of another sort. They cannot just fight back, cannot do anything with it if they do not jump into this place, go to the stage and do something with this. But how? You cannot just go to the stage and say, oh, it's all not true. You have to do some special steps. And these special steps are demonstrated by Pratchett. First of all, they have to destroy the suspension of disbelief, which is very important for any theatrical performance. How do they destroy? They break they change the words, and they interrupt the play in the right place with a word of proper sort. So style is important. Proper word is important. And taking into account that the actors are forgetting their lines, the witches, they just break their concentration. And while breaking their concentration, they change their memory and the memory of the audience. So the steps which are presented here are the Yevhennia's detection of narrative causality, the deconstruction of it, and replacing it with true facts. And how that breaking the concentration happens, you can see that while the people were believing in everything which is happening on the stage, when the witches arrived, they just demonstrated that the cauldron is not real, the fire is not real, but there was one who was just sitting and watching in a proper moment, in a proper minute. She came to the very edge of the stage and said, "Ghost of the mind and all divisive way, I bid the truth to have done. It's Tumpty Day." So even though she had to add some additional syllables, yes, it was the proper word and the proper style. But what is important? Granny was sitting and with her arm folded and glaring at him, at the audience and at the actors. She was not doing anything. It's the position which Lily Weatherworks, her antagonist in Witches Abroad, also takes. Because while analyzing the action of Lily's action, they remind the man in the circus, the ringmaster, who just stands in the middle. He does nothing, but he's holding a whip. And he's actually the main person in here, the one who rules them all. The same thing, which is actually which Lily does. And Lily and Granny, they are like mirrors. They are not really twins, they are sisters, but they mirror each other. And Lily herself, she says that we are both free. We are not in the story. I am a medium through which they happen, and you, because you fight them. So we are not in the middle. They just watch what is going on. They are aware of stories, but Lily uses them to rule the people and to change the world according to her will and to the will of stories. And Granny tries to fight her back. And actually, the question is why Lily is using mirrors, because mirrors create the infinite repetition of patterns. And the same thing happens when we repeat the same plot pattern, the same cliche. And when you repeat, and repeat, the story grows stronger, and it really can rule people's minds. In this case, what Granny really does, she does not destroy the story here. She destroys the mirror. So Lily loses her strength. And the only necessary things, the only condition which Granny says at the very end of which is abroad, it's you must not, you should not turn the world into stories. You shouldn't treat people like they were characters, like they were things. And then in Carpe Jugulum, we will read the same phrase. The greatest sin, the point where the evil starts, it's when people are treated by things, like things. And Granny demands that when you destroy the power of story, that's no stories at all, no more stories, no more magic. And in my opinion, it's when the ideology, when propaganda is replaced by ethics. And what Granny restores, she restores the people's free will and right of choice. But after Granny, always comes Nanny. And as a real trickster, when Magrant asks, what about the rule about not meddling? Nanny says, there is the next rule. And when you break rules, break them good and hard, said Nanny. And really, all the witches are meddling a little bit. Thank you for your attention.